afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
If you've ever seen any of the variable plethora of paranormal TV shows that there are on television at the moment, chances are that you've probably heard the term EVP. EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena, and it occurs when we record something that is either a noise or a voice that we did not hear audibly with our ears during the investigation. Now, this is different from an AVP, which is an audible voice phenomena, which is heard by the investigator at the time of the investigation. Voice phenomena as a paranormal event has been a thing since the early days of society, back in the days where animals and gods would whisper in the ears of us mortals. However, how much of that was mental illness or a case of mediumship, we don't know. However, it's only since the early 20th century and the dawn of the digital age that our electronic communication with the dead has truly had the opportunity to grow. Now, the catalyst for this was the invention of the radio in the early 19th century. From the time that the very first radio waves went out into the world in 1895, it seemed like our desire to communicate with each other only grew. And by the time that Nikola Tesla came along, our desire to connect with each other evolved from mankind into the unseen. The early 20th century marked a huge growth in spiritualism and spiritualist practices. Ouija boards, seances, spiritual parties seemed to grow in massive popularity, and it was always seen as particularly in fashion to want to commune with the dead in some type or other. It was at this time, late at night in his lab, that Nikola Tesla stumbled across something that thoroughly creeped him out. He's quoted as saying, "My first observations positively terrified me, as there was present in them something mysterious, not to say supernatural, and I was alone in my laboratory at night. The sounds that I am listening to at every night first appear to be human voices conversing back and forth in a language that I cannot understand. I find it difficult to imagine that I am actually hearing real voices from people not of this planet. There must be a more simple explanation that so far has eluded me." Firstly, I have to admire his logical rationality when he's faced with these disembodied voices that pop up in the middle of his lab coming through his crystal radio. He wants to explore all sorts of rational possibilities before resorting to the supernatural. Now, the cause of Tesla's ghostly voices have never 100% been confirmed, whether it was simply amplifying nearby conversations, catching snippets of radio waves of other people tinkering with the new technology as it was emerging, or whether it was simply audible pareidolia, in which our mind seems to make sense of random noises that we may hear. What was evident, however, was that as the age of spirituality declined, the rise of digital technology began to grow. Arguably, the very first occurrence of a recorded EVP was recorded on a 78 RPM vinyl record by an American photographer called Attila von Saleh. He later switched to an open reel audio tape in 1956. Using the setup of a microphone and a soundproof cabinet, which was then connected to an external speaker and recorder, he then captured sounds and voices on tape that had not been audible to him at the time, which he believed to be the voices of disembodied spirits. In the 1980s, medium William O'Neill claimed to have received instructions on how to build a device which could conduct two-way conversations from a deceased scientist, George Muller. It was called the Spiritcom. However, no one was able to replicate the results that he apparently received from this device. His partner at the time actually attributed it to the fact that the inventor was a medium himself. Thus, the spirits would only work for him and the device would only work for him also. That doesn't help the rest of us. It wasn't until 2002 that the most popular device used for spiritual communication was invented, and that was called the Spirit Box. It was built by a man called Frank Sumpton, and it quickly grew in popularity to the point where we now see it pretty much in every paranormal investigator's kit and on every single TV show. However, of course, the Spirit Box that Frank created was a much, much earlier version of the Spirit Box that we use today. However, he also claimed to receive his instructions from Spirit in building the box. Now, modern spirit boxes contain an AM or an FM receiver that scan repeatedly through frequencies. Imagine if you're going on a really, really long trip, and in older cars you would lose your radio signal and you'd have to scan through those frequencies in order to find the radio again. What a spirit box is doing is it's running that same scanning and jumping through frequencies and plays what it lands on. It also mixes that with a white noise generator and plays split-second snippets of sound. Try saying that 5 times fast. These days we're a little bit spoilt for choice, in fact, because most mobile phones come with a microphone and recorder, and there are a lot of apps that claim to do what a spirit box is supposed to do. However, this comes with a warning. We don't really know how spirit boxes work. There are 2 ways, hypothetically, that they are supposed to work. One is that the radio itself is receiving communication on the radio waves and then plays the result through the speaker. 2 is that the spirit is manipulating the actual noise as it comes out of the speaker on its way to our ears. Now, the quality of spirit boxes can depend on how much your budget is, ranging anywhere from $100 to $500 to $1,500 if you're after something a little bit more upmarket, like a spirit portal. It's a far cry from having to create your own crystal radio in a lab, which you can find on Instructables, and I will drop the link to that down below. Anyway, that's a really quick history of EVP and spirit boxes. If you guys have had any experiences or have any links to EVPs that you've captured through spirit boxes, feel free to comment them below. Don't forget to click subscribe and ring the little bell so you know when new videos are up. Bye!